now. 3, 2, 1, go.
Hello, hello. This is Ignacy and Portal Games.
And this is the Podfather of Gaming, Stephen Bonacore. You are listening to episode 238 of Board Games Insider, and we're recording on June 15th, 2022. Board Games Insider is a proud member of the Dice Tower Network. And at Origins, I was given a direct, in-person, exclusive interview with the head of the newest Asmodee studio, Luke Petterschmidt. The studio is Office Dog, and what he told me about this new studio will blow you away on many levels. You know who is not given a direct, in-person, exclusive interview with the head of the newest Asmodee studio? Tom Vassell. Again, the Podfather is cooler than Tom Vassell. No, but seriously, Ignacy, the above is true. Yes, I'm cooler, but the above is true about the interview with Luke, the head of the new studio, and it was a surprise interview that he gave me. And the news is so big. I'm gonna save the actual stuff for the event deck because it's really great. And then we're gonna be posting this as well. But what they're gonna be doing, and the way that you, the listeners out there, can be involved with them, you can actually work and do things there. So more on that later, Ignacy. What's happening over at Portal Games?
Before we go to the Portal Games news, I want to make sure that when you, the next time at the board game breakfast or whatever it is called, this segment at the Dice Tower YouTube channel, you make sure that the Tom Vassell quotes Board Games Insider as a source for this very important news, because we need to be quoted. And all these present media live on quotes, how many authors quoted them. So we need to build our cred in the industry. So make sure Tom Vassell quotes as reported by Board Games Insider, and then he talks about the Office Dog. And now he can also quote Portal Games News.
Okay.
So as always, this is always the same case. It is not yet announced, but when you are listening to the podcast, it is already announced. We announced the next army in the Neuroshima Hex app. Once again, a reminder to all of you, because our loyal listeners already know that Neuroshima Hex is a brilliant app. It's a strategy game you can play on your phone or your tablet. It was the app released many years ago and is super successful over the years. And we just announced the next army we will incorporate into the app. The army is Vegas, very close to Stephen Hart army. And Vegas is amazing army. To be eighth army in the app, so there's a lot of replayability. You can play with your friends online, you can play tournaments, you can play with AI. Obviously, AI was designed by John Nakijanka, our in-house developer, so it's very smart. Be careful, because the AI will kick your ass. So if you have a phone, if you have a tablet, if you want to play some smart games on your device, Vegas is the next army that we will incorporate. It will be released this summer, and already you have in the app 7 different armies. So here's a recommendation from Portal Games for your travel, for your summer travels. Download Neuroshima Hex and have fun with the armies. But of course, there's a much more important news in this part of the podcast, brag of the week, and we have especially important news today, because Ignacy and became the special guest of the Southern Fried Gaming Expo. And I even put in the show notes the link, so Steven can double check that it is true. There's a special section on the website called Special Guest, and Mr. Ignacy is listed there. And on the more serious note, this is a not exactly board game convention, but is a convention about the retro gaming, something that is very close to our hearts, because we love these old games from 80s and 90s. And it takes place in Atlanta, but they are building some board game area as well. There will be a couple of vendors from the board game industry. There is a couple of speakers from board game industry, and I was invited. And because I'm doing my tourney around America, and I will be in Atlanta, so I said, yes, will be a speaker there. So if you are in Atlanta this particular weekend, we can meet. I will not have a booth there because I'm just a guest. I'm doing a seminar, and then I will hang out with the fans. So if you live in Atlanta, if you will be in this area in this very period of time. Meet me, Southern Fried Gaming Expo, the special guest, Ignacy Trzewiczek. How cool is that?
That is very cool. And I had to verify, of course, that this is correct. I see you there toward the bottom of this whole group of very distinguished people. Those words are not related. It's really nice, man. Congratulations on being a very special guest of honor.
So the challenge between me and Steven continues, and we will have fun with that for upcoming decade, I guess.
As long as I beat Tom, it's okay. You can be as many times as you want.
For pre-orders and 3 days, we mentioned this last episode, Gutenberg doing amazingly well in America. Thank you for all the positive feedback from you, and of course from the retailers and distributors. And Batman Everybody Lies, the same, great ratings on Board Game Geek, great reviews, so I'm very happy. So once again, if you are Eurogames fan, Gutenberg is choice of new purchase for your game collection. Gutenberg, great game. It seems like a German style game, even though it's from Poland. You are printing books, taking orders, great set collection game with some action and bidding, great mechanism. And if you're more into story-driven games, of course, Batman Everybody Lies, invite your friends to visit Gotham, solve some mysteries, have some secret goals, great stuff, both two great games from Portal Games. So our listeners, I strongly recommend you to check out my new games on the market. And what's happening these days at HQ? First of all, I received a sample copy of Brazil. This is the game that we discussed the last podcast that we are going to airship to Gen Con. And I already have my one copy because during my tournée in America, I will be, of course, visiting different game stores, different gaming clubs. Of course, I will be at the Dice Tower East, and I will be presenting Brazil before Gen Con. So if you want to check out our newest release, our Gen Con release, Brazil, you have to find me at the Dice Tower East, and I will teach you how to play Brazil. There's only one copy. So you need to be fast to find a seat at the table. And as for the Gutenberg, last week I reported that we already sold half of the print run in the first week, and today I had a talk with my sales in America. We already have some first restocks. So some of the retailers, some of the distributors already sold what they had and they wanted to restock. So great feedback in the beginning. I very much appreciate that, and I got a lot of tweets. This is very strange because it was not the case before. The people were asking me if they will be able to play a demo at the Dice Tower East, if they will be able to play a demo of Gutenberg at the Gen Con. On the one hand, yes, you will be able, but if the sales go as well as so far, the game may be sold out at the Gen Con. So please check out the reviews, please check out the social media posts of people who already played the Gutenberg. And if you want to have a great Euro game in your collection, maybe it's time to pull the trigger right now before Dice Tower East, before Gen Con.
It's always a good time to remind people that if you want a game, go get the game. If you try to wait, it might just be gone. And especially in the case of a popular game, look at the reviews that are out there. Look at the gameplay out there. Try to find somebody who's got it. I mean, that might be hard if it's really, really new, but look at people playing it. You get live run-throughs. You get people showing you. If it looks like something, wow, this is my jam, buy it, because you may not get it at Gen Con, and you're not going to get a discount at Gen Con of any significance. Just go out, get it, and you're set.
And enjoy and just have fun with your friends and your family, because it's brilliant. And one CD news, but super important here in Poland. Yesterday, Disney Plus finally was open in Poland. So for all these 2 years that you guys were watching Disney Plus, we in Poland and Eastern Europe were waiting to do this streaming service to go to this region, to this area. And since yesterday, here in Poland, we finally can watch Mandalorian and Hawkeye and Loki and all these
Mandalorian.
Yeah.
It's even hard in English, trust me.
Yeah. And so I want to thank all of my American friends who were spoiling these TV shows over these 2 years and telling me on Facebook pages how they love Mandalorian or whatever. And now I can finally catch up. So usually, as Steven remembers, during the summer, I was taking a break because of the World Cup and I was watching soccer and football. Steven remembers that I was silly and I was just taking break from everything.
Yep.
Now I'm taking break because of Disney Plus. I need to catch up, guys. So lots of great content for me to watch. I started my first thing I watched on Disney Plus was the first episode of the TV show Hawkeye. How you pronounce it?
I don't know
Hawkeye.
I don't know what you said.
The guy with the bow and the arrows and he shoots.
Hokey?
Yeah.
Loki. Loki? No.
Yeah, Hawkeye.
No, I don't.
Yes.
You don't mean the Green Arrow. I mean, what are you talking about?
No.
Hoke?
Haw.
Hawkeye. Oh, that's great. Hawkeye.
That's what I said.
Like the bird, a hawk.
I guess.
Like your eye. Hawkeye. He's got great vision, so he can make every shot with his bow. That is funny.
That is first episode I started on Disney Plus, and I'm loving it.
That's the worst pronunciation you've made since Amazon.
I was. So here's the thing. I'm doing my top 10 failures as a publisher, and spoiler alert, one of them will be about the most funny pronunciation mistake I did. And so, Steven, you have to be at the seminar or at least listen to it later, because there's something that is even more amazing than Amazon's.
That's great. Dude, that is just so funny. All right, let's get into what is the Podfather of Gaming doing. Remember last week I made an announcement here on the podcast, and I put it up on the Podfather of Gaming group, on the Podfather of Gaming page, and I challenged you all. The challenge of the week is to go over to one of my pieces of social media on Facebook. The challenge of the week is to check out the Podfather, the cruise. I'm running my own cruise. I talk all about cruises, how wonderful, how much the value is for what you get. And Podfather the Cruise is running January 7th through 15th, 2023. So you have 8 months, give or take, whatever that is, seven months to figure this all out. You got to make sure you figure it out 3 months before, because then we have to get rid of all the extra rooms. Check it out and see what we're doing. The highlights are, first of all, this cruise is for charity. It's for charity. So the money that the cruise director like me would get, because when you run a cruise, when they give you about 20% of the money that each room costs that you pay them, the cruise director gets. That's called the commission, comes back. All of that money, the net proceeds, is going to charity. In fact, I already declared it right there. It's going to the Ukrainian relief effort.
Amazing.
That's so important. I'm paying for my own room, so there's no free room for me. And I'm getting a suite. It's going to be a really great room. I'll invite people to hang out. It's going to be fun. So it's a charity cruise. It's going for 8 nights. A lot of them go for 6. A lot of them go for 7. It's going to 8 nights, and it's going to South America. We're not messing around here. We're going to South America from Florida. You're going to hit the islands of Curacao and Aruba, which are in viewing distance of Venezuela, right there on South America's proper. And we're going to, while it's going to be a gamer's cruise, because that's who my friends are, it's going to focus on the social aspects, the inviting, the warming aspects of it all. We're going to have a first day social with free drinks. Yoo-hoo! We're going to have a final day closing ceremony social with free drinks. Woo-hoo! And of course, gaming, and we'll go to see shows together and everything. I think maybe we'll have 20 cabins booked. Who knows? Maybe we'll get 100. I don't know. But this is not going to be the Dice Tower cruise, which is wonderful with 500 cabins. I mean, they have 1,000 people almost that go on their cruise, or BGG at Sea. They have a couple of hundred people. We'll probably have 40 people, and we'll be able to do things more intimately. We'll still have access to the conference room and things like that. Even if you can't make it, do me a favor. Go over to the Podfather of Gaming group, join the group. You'll see a lot of funny stuff going on constantly, and check out the event. It's pinned right at the top. Maybe a friend of yours has got extra time to vacation and likes the idea of doing a cruise and likes the idea of doing something for charity. All of those things together is going to be great. You have have several months to decide, but check it out first. Talk to your spouse, your other half, whatever. Come on that cruise, or just your friend. Bring a friend. It's going to be a great time. At Origins, I'm just going to go right down and talk about Origins. I co-hosted Origins TV, and it was simply an amazing experience going around talking to the smallest companies, the biggest companies, interviewing them for about 5 to 10 minutes per. And then that was piped throughout the convention in the hallways at Origins at the Columbus Convention Center. So much fun. All of those interviews are going to get posted on the Podfather of Gaming YouTube channel very soon. So check that out. I'll tease some of them up in the group. But if you want to see all of them and the stuff that I did with the biggest companies, Arcane Wonders, with Restoration Games, with Wise Wizard Games, CGE, I mean, all these guys that you know and love, their games, I get interviews with them. They'll be there. And the smallest companies you never heard of before, you're going to, because they either have 0 games out and they're just about to do a Kickstarter, or they've got 1 out, or they did a Kickstarter, have 1 out, and they're about to launch a new one, or they have ones out right now. It was such an amazing group of small, innovative companies trying to do things as well, trying to become the next Portal Games, the next indie game studios, right? That's what they're trying to do, a dream. And it was great talking to them as well. So check that out. On the Podfather of Gaming YouTube channel. Dice Tower East is going to be coming up in about 2 weeks now. By the time you hear this, about 2 weeks or maybe even a little less, Ignacy and I will be there. We're committed now to doing a Board Games Insider meetup. We're going to do that Saturday at noon. So if you're coming, put it on your schedule, Saturday noon, Board Games Insider meetup. We've done this at least twice already. We had a great time. There'll be pizza, beer, soda, and the World Board Games Insider Crokinole Championship, which has 2 competitors only, Ignacy and Steven, and you can watch Ignacy beat me. Technically, I tried this. We've only done it twice, I think. I won the first one, which was insane. It's insane that I beat you. And you won the second one handily. I beat you by a micro millimeter, and then you beat me in the second game pretty well. So maybe I should practice a little bit for our third game. So I hope to see you there.
Ultimate challenge.
The ultimate challenge. Correct. All right. Then from there, basically I go directly to BGG at Sea a few days later, and that leaves out of Galveston and doing a what's called an Western Caribbean tour there. I'm going to fly virtually directly, and it may be directly, I haven't figured this out yet, to the WBC in the Pittsburgh area, spend almost a week with my close friends from New Jersey. They drive out there. I'm flying out there. I haven't been there like 7 years. Can't wait to be there again. It's such a really hardcore gaming, but you don't have to be in the tournaments. We don't do that. We just go there and play epic games. We play TI4, we play War of the Ring, we play Twilight Struggle, we play all the big games because, we wake up at 10 in the morning, 9 in the morning, and we play until midnight, and then we do it again the whole day. No events, no nothing, just keep playing. And then from there, I'm going out to Gen Con and spend the week there with no work on my schedule, unless all of a sudden somebody sees my great interviewing work and then wants to, I doubt it. That's not going to happen. I'm going to enjoy Gen Con. And then I collapse. So I'm basically going to be out of my home for the entire month of July and into like the first week of August. Crazy amount of travel, but a crazy amount of fun. And that's what I try to do right now. Just have fun in my life. Ignacy, it's even tiring talking about it. So let's get to the event deck. Now, Ignacy, are you going to annoy our listeners again?
I mean, I guess they already know that they failed us, not voting for us.
They did not vote and nominate us for the Golden Geek Award for Best Podcast. All right, this is the last time we're going to talk about it because next year we're going to be smart enough to tell people to get out there and vote. So you see, I just deleted it from the show notes. It's not going to be there again. So, but we do thank and we do really appreciate people because I constantly get people coming up to me. So we do appreciate it. It's just, weren't nominated. So
we'd like to thank all 7 people who voted for us.
Probably got a few votes, right? Did we get any? Who knows? Doesn't matter. But thank you all for being listeners or watchers. A lot of people are watching it now on YouTube as well. So the first part of this is going to set up the next story. The first part is that Asmodee's parent company, which is Embracer, and we've been talking about them. Embracer bought Asmodee from another venture capital firm only a few months back for $3 billion. They're now going out and they are raising $1.05 billion to continue to expand themselves. Embracer Group, which acquired tabletop giant Asmodee, comics and media company Dark Horse Comics, and the assets of video game company Square Enix, that was a huge one, in the past few months, is raising $1.05 billion via an issue of new B shares to Savvy Gaming Group, an arm of Saudi Arabian Sovereign Wealth Fund, public investment fund, which invests funds on behalf of the government of Saudi Arabia. After the investment is complete, Savvy Gaming Group will own approximately 8.1% of the shares and 5.4% of the votes in Embracer. The price for the raise converted to US dollars from Swedish kroner, because Embracer is a Swedish company, as of June 8th, represents roughly a 15% premium over the share price on June 7th. So they've had to pay a premium to get into this very lucrative company. Embracer announced that it was acquiring Asmodee for $3.11 billion and Dark Horse for an undisclosed price in December, and that the acquisitions had been completed in March 2022. The acquisition of some Square Enix assets for $300 million was announced in May. So Ignacy, continuing to be a mega giant in the industry, Embracer, which now owns Asmodee, crazy, Square Enix, crazy, Dark Horse Comics, all of these huge gaming and this e-gaming assets is just phenomenal. And literally, Embracer, which is private, remember, you can't buy into it now. This new company is buying in, but it's a private transaction. It's like me saying, Ignacy, I'd like to buy some Portal games. Here's a lot of money. Give me some Portal Games stock privately. Embracer is going out to a private market, bringing more money in to continue to expand, and they are going to be bigger. They're going to be bigger, and I have to do some calculations to see if they are or not. And I think I can probably figure this out. If they are going to be bigger than Hasbro at some point soon. In fact, I'm going to do calculations, not now. It'll take a little too much time, to see if on paper, Embracer is now bigger than Hasbro. Ignacy?
Yeah, on my silly comment, I would of course say that I see that they are preparing to acquire Portal Games, and I appreciate that they're raising $1 billion. On more...
That's awesome. The next announcement maybe that Embracer acquires Portal.
On a serious note, this is exactly what you said, that they are not raising money to just have them on the account. They are preparing for the next acquisition. So for us here in the Board Games Insider is a exciting time, and we can now debate what they can purchase, what is the next goal, what they want to expand in which direction, if they'll be once again looking for the video games IPs, or maybe they will look for some studios that do animations, like we don't know. But definitely this step says they are not stopping. They are just going to go for the more IPs, more small companies to become a hegemon, absolutely.
Hegemony? Is that kind of the word you said? How did you say it?
Hegemot, like a big beast.
Behemoth?
Oh.
Is that the word?
Yeah.
Okay.
Dude,
I love that. I love trying to translate.
I have an idea for and I'm serious now, for the great TV show when you invite the non-native speakers and you have to figure out what they are saying. Like, they'll be so engaging for all the audience in America, trying to figure out these different accents. Like, maybe there's a thing. There is so many TV shows, right?
I mean, I think that you and I could just do this on stage. Like, you give me, like, you say something, I have to try to figure out what you mean, and then I say something, in like some obscure English, or maybe like a Brooklyn thing that I know, to see if you can figure.
There's one thing that concerns me. What percentage of our listeners listen to us because of the business news, and what percentage just for this silliness of what's happening between us?
This is great. I gotta move. I gotta move on, because the next segment, the next portion of this is so good. So listen to this. So Asmodee is launching their newest studio called Office Dog. This hasn't even been announced. There's no press release out yet or anything like that, but it's definitely official because, excuse me, the head of studio at Office Dog spoke directly in person and exclusively to the Podfather of gaming at Origins. So let me tell you what happened here. And by the way, I got this connection. I'm going to mention my good buddy Matt Morley, who knows Luke Petterschmidt, who is the head of the studio, Office Dog. And he said, hey, Luke wants to talk to you. I'm like, who's this guy? He's like the head of the newest Asmodee studio. I'm like, they haven't announced this new studio. He's like, well, go talk to him. Okay. So we set up an interview. We were in the Asmodee booth. They had only a sales booth there. That was all they were doing, just selling games like a store, like a retail store, no demos or anything like that. And the funniest thing is, we kind of set up the shot in the back where it said Asmodee. So it was just him and me, and we set up this shot. And the guy who was running the booth, when he was doing sales at the time, he goes, excuse me, we were not allowed to do any interviews here. We weren't given the permission from the Asmodee to do that. And Luke had to say, oh, no, I run a studio. I run the newest studio, so I can do this here. Don't worry. He had to tell him about who he was, because no one knows who he is. Anyway, so at Origins, I spoke to Luke Petterschmidt, the head of studio at Asmodee's newest brand, Office Dog. Luke spoke to me exclusively, and in his first interview, and what I'm about to tell you is exclusive to Board Games Insider, making our listeners truly insiders. Okay, you guys are going to now hear inside information. None of this was reported anywhere, to my knowledge. You can go out and talk about it, because this is public knowledge now, because he spoke to me. So Asmodee, as Ignacy was just talking about, is most famous for buying brands, right? And bringing in new things, keep making them bigger by finding new things to add. In this case, this is different. They're launching this new studio called Office Dog, and it's going from the ground up. Luke Petterschmidt is the former creative director at AEG. He's the studio head. And listen to what they'll be doing. And we predicted this, Ignacy. We predicted that this would happen, and it wasn't a huge prediction. It was just, of course they would. He is going to be the guy at Asmodee, utilizing the new studio, that's going to be taking IPs from all of the games that's part of Embracer, right? They're going to take Final Fantasy, right? That's part of Square Enix, for instance. Take that, put it on a board game, send it out. Here's the cooler part of that. If you're a designer and you've got a game idea, or maybe you got a game that you think would work with a Final Fantasy on it, or with L5R, or with, think of any comic IP that they own, or any e-gaming that they own, and we're talking hundreds of IPs. If you already thought in your head, my God, that would be great for something that they own already. It can't be like Star Wars, even though they could do that, but they want to utilize the IPs already completely internal to Asmodee and really to Embracer. If you have a game that you can put one of those IPs on, you can pitch it directly to Luke, and they may do this game. Everybody out there should be like, every designer like that's hearing this, every independent designer should be flipping out right now. Now, they're not going to have inside designers like all the other studios have. Fantasy Flight, they got internal designers, right? Repos, internal designers. They're going to be reaching out to you to say, come to us, bring game designs, and let's figure out what we can put, what IP will work with the game that you pitch to us. And furthermore, they're also hiring for positions inside of the new Office Dog. The first thing and the biggest thing, they're hiring a creative director. Creative directors are people that manage assets basically putting together, the artwork onto games, setting them up, getting ready for production, and then hand it over to the production director. So that job's hiring right now, and they're taking pitches right now. Luke told me he had taken already 3 or 5 pitches at Origins and he said he was going to sign. He was absolutely signing a couple of the games. So he's ready to start talking to you. How cool is that?
Yeah, this is fascinating news, and we in this podcast we very often get questions from our fans and what IPs you would love to publish, what IPs you would love to design. And people are always interested in that. And this is the case that you, as a young designer, you have the idea for the game, or you have your beloved, as Steven said, mentioned, Final Fantasy. You love Final Fantasy. You design a game, and you knew it is impossible to publish. Hey, now it is possible. Just reach out to them, and if your game is as brilliant as you believe, you might have your game published. So, yeah, many times we were discussing the things that, hey, Ignacy, would you like to design a Lord of the Rings game? I was saying, yes, I would love to, but the FFG has a license, not Portal Games. Here, if you're an independent designer, you reach them and you make your dream game reality. So kudos to this approach. I guess they will get a ton of submissions. So many people will reach them with these ideas, but out of these many submissions, there will be a couple of brand new games, brand new designs. So as we said many times, Asmo these days are taking their already existing games and changing IPs on them. Now we have a different solution. We have IPs, and we are looking for a brand new mechanism, brand new engines, brand new games to match this particular IP. So looking forward, what will happen? I guess we will see the first games from Office Dog release in about 2 years, because this is how much time it takes from the prototype to the final production. So we will report on this, that's for sure.
Absolutely. I am actually contacting Luke, texting him right now to find out how a designer can get, into contact him.
Yep.
At the moment, if you're hearing me say this and you want to do something, reach out to me. You can contact me, right, for a direct message on Twitter. You can get onto the Podfather game. You know how to contact me. I'm pretty out there. Contact me if you need to know right now, before I get the way that he'd like to contact. They're still building their website even. That's how new they are. So you can't even go to their website yet. I think they have a shell website up there. So you won't be able to get to a contact me page yet. Hopefully Luke will get back to me even by the end of the show. We'll post this information so you can do it. For the creative director position, you can go over to the Asmodee hiring. They have a place on their website where they list all of the positions they're hiring for, and they will have this already up. So that's a special position inside the company. But for designers, you would go at the moment directly to Luke to talk to him. Contact me in the meantime, and I'll get you over to him. Now we're going to do one more news. Ignacy wanted to end there because we're going a little long, but this one's too important not to do. In this news, there is now going to be a third crowdfunding platform. Again, it's specific to gaming, and several companies have announced they're actually going to be on this platform. Cephalofair Games, publisher of Gloomhaven and upcoming Frosthaven, the biggest tabletop Kickstarter ever, will mount its next crowdfunding campaign on the new platform Crowdfunding by BackerKit. So BackerKit, right, which is sort of the generic game for the Pledge Manager, right? Almost Pledge Manager is. They are launching their own crowdfunding platform, and it's one of 30 launch creators that have announced similar moves the company has announced. Other game publishers making the move include Monty Cook Games, Restoration Games, Leader Games, Greater Than Games, Rocket Ship, and Deepwater Games, among others. Briefly, Miniatures of Gloomhaven is going to be the Cephalofair campaign. Will be a 500 plus count miniature line for Gloomhaven, Forgotten Circles, Jaws of the Lion, and Frosthaven. It'll kick off in the first quarter of 23. Huge campaign. I'm not going to go into any other details because they're not really relevant, but here's an interesting extra fact on this one, Ignacy, is that I spoke to Justin Jacobson, the head of Restoration Games, yesterday, and he told me about that he's doing this, and he's going to launch Return to Dark Tower version 2, or the the second, the new printing of the game with new content. So he's taking one of his major IPs. That was a huge Kickstarter. I own Return to Dark Tower. It's brilliant. He's going to put it there too, along with all those other ones that I mentioned, which are also some pretty big game names like Leader Games and Monty Cook and Deepwater. They're pretty big names, and they're also going over here. I find this fascinating that simply in just the last year and a half, 2 new big players are starting. So we obviously have GameFound that Ignacy Portal Games is on, and now we're going to have a third one. I think Kickstarter is going to get creamed, really get hurt by all of this, at least on their gaming side, and gaming is their biggest part. Ignacy, any comments?
Yeah, I'm surprised. I'm really, really surprised. We were expecting that for the upcoming months and years, we will see these combat or challenge between Kickstarter and GameFound. They are like Pepsi and Cola, like Nike and Adidas. Like there's always these 2 brands fighting these in different industries, and suddenly we have a third player, and it's quite a surprise. And I would say it's too late to come into this challenge, because already there are some people who say no, we stick with the Kickstarter, or there are some companies who say yes, we want these new services, we want this new energy from GameFound. So I would say it is too late to step into the game. But then you list the names that decided to try this new platform, and these are major names in our industry. Leather Games, of course, Isaac with his Gloomhaven, of course, Restoration Game. These are big players. So I would say now that yes, I agree with you that Kickstarter is in trouble, because he already lost some of the clients to the GameFound, and now once again major partners are leaving Kickstarter, but not to the GameFound, to the new platform. Very eager what will happen now. Yeah. I'm really surprised and eager to see what will happen in the upcoming 2 years.
Yeah, and really briefly before we move on, you and I had that prediction. You made the prediction that GameFound would take 15%. I think that was the number. We can go back and look. We're going to go back and look at the end of the year of Kickstarter's number away by the end of the year. We were going to have to figure out if that's right. Now, I think it's almost absolutely going to happen, because people will hold off on Kickstarter for anything end of the year crowdfunding, and they're going to move to either GameFound or BackerKit, crowdfunding by BackerKit. Amazing, big story. We'll continue to cover that. In the meantime, let's get to strategy and tactics. All right, so here where we take your questions from our guild on Board Game Geek, Michael Pistioles, who's MG Pistol. He asks, during the publishing process, is there ever a point when you would give up on a game? And if so, what do you think the reason would be? Fiscal, design, relationships, etc. Or once you have a contract to develop a design, you proceed to completion regardless? Ignacy?
I don't, yes. So definitely I don't proceed to the completion regardless.
So he's saying once you have a contract, do you always go all the way to the end, or are there some reasons, and what do you think they would be, to stop?
I can give two examples from my company. One example, we had a very interesting prototype that we wanted to publish. We were working with the designer for almost a year, a lot of development discussions, lots of Skypes, but we were like moving very slowly, and sometimes we were moving forward and then moving backwards, and the designer didn't fully understand what we want to achieve with this game. And at some point we said, we lost so much time already. We see that we are struggling. We see that we have a little bit different concept, a different vision of the final game. We pass, we wish you the best. Please find the publisher who will find your game as you wish this game to be in the final version. And with the very friendly way, we split our ways. And I wish this designer that he will publish the game with a different publisher, and I will definitely buy this game. But yes, it was the situation when we were not moving forward with the way I wanted, and we said, yes, good luck, please go to a different publisher. And another example that I have is that we released the game last year, the game Dreadful Circus from the Bruno Faidutti, and this game was previously in the different publisher. I will not name, but this was a very famous publisher. The game was there for more than a year, and this publisher had so many games in the line, so many ways, so many new games to publish that he was just delaying and moving this Bruno's Fight Duty game. And at some point they reached Fight Duty and said, Bruno, like if you want, you can just take this game to another publisher because we are not going to publish it very, very soon. And Bruno signed the deal with us. So there's many different reasons. And from my experience, this is a friendly decision. Like it is not that there was some argument and so I go away. No. It's just we discuss. We both publisher and designer. We both want the success of the game. And if we discuss and we see that together it will not happen after these many months of work, we say, okay, let's just say high five, good luck, and find a different publisher.
Exactly, and I'll add that it's not often a financial decision, though it could be if you realize that what you wanted to do would just cost too much and the price point would be too much. It could be. It's not often a relationship like you're having problems talking to them and discussing, but it often comes down to the design, where if the design, let's say, was a little early and then you tried to work out things with the designer or internally and you couldn't figure out a few things, it wasn't working, the direction the designer wanted to take that design was different than what you wanted. You always want the designer on board. That's very important. As Ignacy kind of said, you give them a high five, you release it back to them, you wish them all the best. And sure, that happens not infrequently. It's not an uncommon thing to have happen, but not the most common. Most times you sign a contract, you're going to go through the whole way. Aaron Schmittikans, who's A.W. Schmittikans, with all the shipping and logistics issues happening around the world, can you give some insight into what the process is for securing a shipping container? What issues have you had on both sides of the shipping logistics line? So Ignacy, I don't know, do you have one guy, right? Isn't your operations manager Greg that handles your shipping, or somebody else?
So yes, I have a full-time employee only for that. So my first answer is I have no clue. I just know that this guy is stressed out every single day. And because his daytime job is just securing these containers, securing these ships, and I know, just the feedback from the reports from him. He has like, hey, we have secured container, and then suddenly we learn that this container is still in the port, and the ship went without this container because somebody in China decided different container will end up on the ship. Sometimes we wait for the containers because there's no containers in China, and we have all the print run ready in China. The games are there, but there's no container. So basically, there is every single day, every single week, there is some story happening in ports in China or happening in ports in America when our containers randomly go for the customs and some checkings, etc., etc. So I'm not doing it in the company, so I don't know the full details. I just know that you need these days the full-time employee just for that.
It's an amazingly difficult. When I was doing it, it was one of the 14,000 hats that I wore at Stronghold. When I was doing it, it's an amazingly difficult job to organize your containers when you have many of them moving simultaneously. I would often have, 6, 10 containers or shipments in various states, from ready to be picked up to arriving, right, at any place like that. So in general, the process is you have a broker usually, or more than one, that you say, okay, I'm gonna have a 40-foot FCL, that's your standard sized container, ready at port of Shenzhen, China, on this date. I need a container there for pickup, or I'm gonna have it at the factory. There's two different things. You can have it, and that's when you do an FOB, freight on board, meaning they bring it to the factory brings it to the port, and then it's got to get picked up. Or it's called X Works, when it sits at the factory and your people, the shipping agent will arrange to have it picked up and moved. You have to look at all of the different price options, all the timing options. Sometimes if you go for a longer shipment, it's going to be cheaper. Sometimes it's longer even. So usually you want the fastest shipping, but not always the most economical. Do you want to move part of it over the rail? I mean, it's literally, we can talk about shipping forever. And right now what's going on, where a container could cost $4,000 5 years ago, went up to as much as $40,000. I mean, ridiculous numbers, and is now settled in the $24,000. So still, it's like 6 times what it was just a handful of years ago. We hope that it all comes back down. But this is a great question, and literally we could spend forever doing it. It is a huge, huge job to manage all of your worldwide shipping, especially when it's many containers moving at the same time. Walter Supfin, who's at Supfin, he asks a very silly question. Neither of you look as unfit as Tom Vassell. I love hearing that, I can't tell you. What do you do to stay in shape? Who would win an arm wrestle between the two of you? And maybe we'll throw Tom in there too. Who would win in a 100-meter sprint? All right, Ignacy. First of all, you have 3 questions there. Do you believe you're in better shape than Tom Vassell? Wait. Who do you think is in better shape? Rate the 3 of us. Tom Vassell, you, me. Rate the 3 of us in order. Who would win in an arm wrestle between the 3 of us? Who's the strongest? And who would win in a 100-meter sprint?
I would say that I will win running. Tom will win the wrestle. And I think that at this very moment, you are in a very good shape. I used to play tennis. I used to play football, but this few last weeks, months. Now I'm not in the best form. I got some sickness. So I vote you are in the best fit. Tom is the strongest and I'm the fastest.
All right. So I'm going to say you're in the best shape. I'm going to say that I might win the arm wrestle between the
Seriously?
3 of us. I think I would win. I think
you would beat me for sure, but
I think I would beat Tom. He's a big guy, but that doesn't mean he's got bicep and it's bicep and forearm strength to win an arm wrestle. And I think you easily win. You're too thin. And by the way, I'm not in good shape. I'm a slug. I do not work out. I really need to. And I'm also toward the top of I'm at the high end of my weight range right now. It's not good. I've been traveling too much. I've been eating too much. I'm not grossly overweight. Tom is a little bigger than both of us. You're nice and thin, even though you eat cookies. But I live a good life, and I'm drinking beer and I'm drinking wine and I'm eating good food. So that's my prediction on. So I guess I gave one to each of us too. I gave
you're a well-balanced team.
You're in best shape. I win the arm wrestle, and you win. No, I gave none to Tom.
Surprise.
Great question. I love it. Thanks for the funny question. Ray Greenlee, our announcer for the show. He's at RM Green. Balance is for weenies is a quote he puts here, and that's Peter Olaka, famous designer of Cosmic Encounter. How important is balance in board games? Ignacy, how much effort do you put into your designs to try to ensure that the game will be balanced? Some games are famously imbalanced, such as Diplomacy. Do you think that Diplomacy would be a better game if it had been designed with a balanced map, such as that of each of the powers had an equal chance to win? Note, this does not mean the map would have to be symmetrical, just that the territories would be shaped in a way that gave Austria or Italy as much chance to win as the other powers. So balance is something that Jeff Engelstein just wrote. Jeff Engelstein, I'm going to give him a plug because great friend, great designer, genius, effing genius the guy is. If you talk to him about like any topic, if he doesn't know it, he makes up the answer. No, he's just educated and really, really great, MIT and all that kind of stuff. He wrote an article for his newsletter about game balance. And he said, essentially, that if a game is perfectly balanced, it's broken. Because you need imbalance to make the game interesting. You need certain cards to be better than other cards. You need certain parts of the board to be better because then you have conflict over them or whatever the case may be. So perfect balance makes for technically a bad design, but general balance, of course, is good. And I love the Peter Olatka quote here, balance is for weenies. And of course, Cosmic Encounter may be the single most imbalanced game because every one of those powers that break all the rules, although the alien powers, they're all crazy and they're all imbalanced. And that game is meant simply to have a fun time. Ignacy, talk to me about game balance.
Yeah, this is a very complex topic. And definitely, I'm not the person that will say now publicly that balance is not important. But I agree what you just said. Sometimes when you play these Euro games and you see that everything that you do gives you victory points and everything is well balanced, that then you start to thinking, so why I'm doing action A instead of action B if they give me the same amount of victory points, etc., etc. And in a brilliant design, Godfather, Eric Lang did one of these areas much more powerful than the others, just because of what you just said, because people are then fighting, because this one area is so powerful that everybody goes for this area, and therefore there's a game, and therefore there's a conflict. So making everything super well balanced make a boring game. But definitely, please don't quote me that I said that the game should be not balanced, because there will be a trouble for me. And on top of that, I would go even further. I play a lot of historical games, and sometimes in historical games they recreate the battle, and in this battle Romans lost. So this is a historical game, so good luck if you're playing Romance. Yes, you have less soldiers. Yes, the other player has heals and they will charge you from the heals, and most likely you will lose. But hey, maybe you can rewrite the history. And this game from the very beginning tells you, yes, this scenario is in balance. In a real life, Romance lost. Maybe you can do it other way, but most likely you will not. And this is part of the game, trying to win even though the other side has more soldiers and more forces. So if the game is in balance by accident or the lack of the talent, this is bad. But if the game is in balance as a design decision, this is brilliance, and this is what I approve.
Very, very, very well said. Balance is very important, but specific imbalances. And I came to really appreciate the game Godfather. The first time I played it, I'm like, some of these things just are like so much better than others. I don't know if it's the right thing. It was one of those like things. I'm like, I don't know. And then you realize that that is actually the genius of the game. And some of these, they're not I win cards, but they're cards that do like, boom, a car bomb. It like massively changes the board. It just adds for great moments in the game without really hurting anyone's chance of winning. It's so, yeah. Balance, an amazing topic. We can talk about this forever, but we can't. We're going on. We're going over to playtesting. All right, Ignacy, last week I asked the question, are there themes that have not been done yet in a game, or any themes that have not been done enough in games, and you'd like to see these themes in upcoming games? And I told people that you're going to design a game on our favorite. No, that's not true. Maybe we'll see. What do you think? So what did people say, man?
Yeah, so I found a couple of super interesting, obviously, answers. I picked for this show two of them. Mike Dando says a Formula One management game. And since I'm just releasing a football management game, and I knew how much fun we had building economy game, building Euro game around the sport like a football, I know that the Formula One is a super complex sport, and it is so much more than just, racing cars. There's so much more into this sport. So I could easily spend a few months of researching the topic, watching documentaries, watching TV shows, learning, and then probably create a great Euro game about the Formula One management. So Mike, I approve this message. I approve this idea. He says there used to be a game on the Spectrum that let you manage a team, buy your drivers, spend money to upgrade your car. As the season went on, your drivers could improve, car parts, replacing, etc., etc. So yeah, Formula One management, I like the idea. And then Kurt van Huyveld said, I immediately think about IPs, and then the X-Files comes to my mind, and the Dragonlance as a novel. And obviously, the whole thing with detective being detective Batman, being detective Dune, the whole looking for the IPs for detective was from this the same idea. Like I was thinking X-Files detective would be awesome, And I was starting thinking about IPs, and then we had this opportunity to do Dune and Batman Detective. So X-Files Detective, maybe at some point in the future, that will be for sure my dream come true.
Those are some pretty good choices.
Yep.
I'm gonna mention Matthew, who's Octavian. He's like the main person who monitors everybody's behavior on Board Game Geek. So Octavian, he says, I'm surprised we haven't seen a game themed around competing crowdfunding campaigns yet. Players play as publishers starting a campaign with a very basic game. As play progresses, players add components, upgrades, expansions, stretch goals in order to attract the most backers. I thought that was a very interesting thing that, you know, one might try to create a game around. Now we have competing platforms as well.
Yep.
I think that there really is a game. There'll be a little insider kind of stuff going on there. It'll be only for real, I shouldn't say real gamers, but gamers who know the industry so well and what's going on right now in the thought process of like, oh, I gotta watch 3 platforms now, and now I gotta watch these games and see how well they're doing. Very interesting, right? Very interesting ideas there. Paulina Solarska. Pauline is my girlfriend. Flight control, my dream job. Flight control tower on a huge airport, either a simulator like for one person or combined with pilot route as a co-op, or about entire airport as a competitive between airports. And then Apollo 13, I think, Paulina, that we do have an Apollo 13 game already, and we have other ones about the early space program, American space program. But that's pretty interesting. I think a flight controller style, I think it would be like a co-op game, though it could be a little dark, because what's the bad scenario when a plane goes down?
I want to say it very openly and very clear. I am not designing a game about planes.
Because you're scared of planes.
That was the official statement.
Paulina, sorry, you're not going to get this one. And then I had to pick this one. I suppose it happens to be the last one in the series here. It's from Adrian Patterson. And he says, while Lord of the Rings has been well covered, the Silmarillion, Tolkien's epic backstory to Middle-earth, has not really been touched. Of course, it hasn't at all. Morgoth and Ungoliant destroying the trees of light. Like a deck builder, the Noldor elves leaving the Blessed Realm and heading to Middle-earth in pursuit of Morgoth, a race game for various clans. Beren and Luthien searching for the Silmarils, a dungeon delver, the gods creating the world, a tile-laying game, or a Narnia board. Okay, then he goes off and he talks about other things. I can't even talk about this. But oh my God, Adrian, you just played right into me, man. Or woman, sorry. You just played right into me. Of course, I want my Lord of the Rings world, my Tolkien world to expand, and all of those things there. If you don't know what he's talking about, I know what he's talking about. I've read the Silmarillion a couple of times, and it's epically interesting. So thank you, everybody, for those.
Dear Adrian, we will pass your post to RS Games, so fingers crossed.
That would be great. Ares is doing some of the coolest games in the War of the Rings universe, so in the Lord of the Rings universe. So Ignacy, what's your new question for this week?
Yeah, my new question is dedicated to the fact that I'm coming to the Dice Tower East and I'm coming to the Gen Con, and we always make fun of me being special guest or other designers being special guests. So my question is for all of you attendees of the conventions, what game designer may provide at the con to make the con special in your opinion? So the question is,
I don't get it.
If you prefer that the special guest will do seminars, do you prefer the special guest to do autograph sessions? Do you prefer to play with him games? What if you are coming, for instance, to the Dice Tower East and Eric Lang would be a special guest? Do you prefer to play with Eric Lang his newest game, or do you want Eric Lang to give you a keynote? Do you prefer Eric Lang to be just a guest at the meetup and hanging out with you at the dinner? Like, how you want to approach these designers and what you make great memories coming back home and saying to your friends, I was at the Dice Tower East, I met Eric Lang, it was awesome. What would be awesome? Seminars, I said seminars, playing games, autographs, selfies, staying in the pub in the night. I guess this is a choice for you. What designers and what convention organizers can do to make you happy.
So I'm rewriting this because I didn't understand what you were saying. So I'm gonna rewrite it as, what special sessions would you like for a game designer to do at conventions, right? At a convention, would it be signings, dinners, drinks, seminars? Create some ideas for game designers when they appear at conventions.
Absolutely.
Very good. I mean, to me, getting to know the people, like, I don't, autographs are nice and getting them to sign.
I give you a crazy example. So what we were doing here in Poland with Michael Oracz, designer of Neuroshima Hex, brilliant game. And one of the attractions for the players was to play against him. And that was, quite an honor and quite a fun to play against the designer, trying to beat him in his own game. And that was attraction that players appreciated. And Michał got beat a lot. But it's like what you would like to, how you would like to have fun with designer.
That's good. That's pretty cool. To me, I like to, get to know the people the best. That's my favorite thing, right? So sure, if I happen to have a game, getting a signing is nice. Seminars are great, but I'm often miss them because I'm going to play things or doing other things, eating and drinking. But I would love, when they organize dinners or little drinking at the pub kind of things. Doesn't have to be alcohol, but just hanging out and just talking and getting to know them. And maybe
just super casual event. Just for these 2 hours, the designer will be in this pub, and there'll be just a little bit of music, a little bit of beer, and just talk casually.
Right, and it would be an interesting thing that they'd have to figure out how to do that, because if you have 20, 30 people show up, well, I'm sitting next to him, I'm going to ask him all the questions, so he'd have to kind of project his voice, or he changes his seat so everyone can get a chance to talk to him and stuff like that, or whoever the game designer is, or the very special guest of honor, like when Stephen Bonacore shows up as the Podfather, that counts too. So right now, Ignacy is creating a thread on Board Game Geek in our guild, and he's going there, putting that up there, and we want you to answer the question, what special sessions would you like for a designer to do at conventions? And we give you some examples, and we'd like you to create your own. It would be very interesting to know. Ignacy, that's a very interesting question, and I'm going to go to the final scoring. Thank you so much for listening. Help us spread the word about this podcast by telling your friends to download Board Games Insider wherever they like to get their podcasts, or now watch Board Games Insider on the Podfather of Gaming YouTube channel. To ask us questions for the strategy and tactics segment, you must post them in the correct thread in our guild on Board Game Geek. And to answer our question to you from playtesting, also go to our guild on Board Game Geek and look for the thread with this episode's question. Board Games Insider has a Facebook page, so please like us on Facebook. Also on Facebook, please like Ignacy's page and Steven's page, which is /PortalGamesUS and /Podfather Gaming. And join the Podfather of Gaming group for funniness. Our websites are Portal Games US and podfathergaming.com. Go there, sign up for the newsletters, get up to the minute information on what's happening at Portal Games and with the Podfather. On social media, talk directly to Ignacy and Steven on Twitter and Instagram. It's at PodfatherGamesUS and at Podfather Gaming. All same on us, and on YouTube. The channels are Portal Games Movies, Portal Games Gameplays, and the Podfather of Gaming. TikTok is Portal Games US. We hope to see you at an upcoming convention, especially Dice Tower East, where we're going to be doing the 3rd Board Games Insider meetup at that convention, and that's just a few weeks from now. Board Games Insider is professionally edited by Matthew Jude from This Game is Broken podcast, and if you'd like him to edit your podcast, please contact him on Twitter or email at thisgameisbrokenpodcast@gmail.com. Also, that great voice you hear doing our intro, outro, and in-between segments is that of Ray Greenlee. He can be contacted to do voiceover work for you at raygreenleevoiceover.com. So Ignacy, besides what we just told everybody about that BGI meetup, that's very important, Saturday noon at Dice Tower East, I'm going to be bringing pizza and beer and soda and playing crokinole and just talking, of course. This is an event to meet a famous designer, to meet a formerly famous podcaster who just now runs around and does silly things with his life. You can just have a good time for an hour or so outside of the main tower. We'll hang out there and do this. It's going to be epically fun.
Yep.
Ignacy, I also have some very big news that I told people about, that there's that new Office Dog studio. Luke Petterschmidt got back to me, and he said that designers and anybody who needs to contact him for the new studio can contact him on Twitter at L Petterschmidt. Easy to do. It's Peter and Schmidt. LPETERSCHMIDT. So it's on Twitter at that, what I just said. And his email address is lpeterschmidt@asmodayna.com. Asmodee with 2 E's, right? NA.com. So I've given designers and people who are looking for a job a way to get directly to him and pitch game designs especially. Very, very cool information. We'll probably try to mention that again next week, because I think this is a really big thing for the insiders who listen to this podcast.
I want just to mention that all designers who will get their game published, thanks to us, thanks to this contact information, should bring cookies and beers for a long time each time they meet us at the conventions.
You know, I
It's
think
our
that's
agent fee.
That's
cookies and beer.
And like maybe vote for us. Okay, I did it again. We're not supposed to do that anymore. So thank you everybody for listening. We appreciate it, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you. Bye-bye.